record button. All right. So to start out, we're gonna step on this pressure plate. Welcome to the survival zone. So if you're ever,
I was gonna die.
if you're ever on the server, and you want to go back to the creative zone, this shrine and this little button
Cool.
teleports you back.
Can I punch?
You can.
Or
You should
do I
be
have to
able.
go far away?
Oh, did it not set you to survival? I might have
No,
messed up.
I'm sure. I'm not sure what the rules are. Is it just free range?
No, yeah, just free range, whatever. If I have to move the shrine, I will. I guess to start out, here, let me turn Sweden down just a little bit. Let me balance this audio real quick.
Come on, Sweden.
Um,
Quiet down.
To start out, how do I
There's a
even?
wolf.
So okay, I explained to you the idea before, right? Where with like evolutionary monsters, and I'm pretty sure I talked to you about
Yeah,
it.
this is a while back.
I talked to
isn't it?
quite a few. Yeah, I talked to quite a few people about it. And I guess this is like kind of just backing off of that, where I stopped thinking about that idea for a while just because, like, I don't know, I wasn't satisfied with where it was going. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with it. And I figured, like, I don't know, I just, a nice little healthy break from it, come back with a new frame of mind, see if that sparks anything new. And oh boy,
Yeah.
did it spark something new. So, how do I even start explaining this? Because the thing is, if this does go public, I don't want it to just be like, hey, here, you're thrown into an idea. But
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain the entire thought process. I guess, I'll just start with, like, my way of thinking about when I, like, started this. So, like, I guess ever since I've been younger, I've had this, like, infatuation with, making, like, a living world. And I never got into, like, writing. I never, gaming just has been it for me, right? That's what I've done. That's what I do. I enjoy it. It's I think it's arguably, like, one of the best sources of entertainment.
Oh, it's odd. Yeah, the possibilities. It's like a new frontier of
Yeah, and I think it's also still, like, super untapped.
human
And
experience.
I think deep down inside, I am, there's a little game developer inside of me that just wants to make a big, like, open world, not open world, like, just a big, oh, hey, thanks. Just a big, like, I guess living, breathing world is the best way I can put it. And
Yeah.
this idea started a while back. I haven't really known what to call it. Eventually I decided I was just gonna call it my love letter to the internet, because I don't know, it's just kind of encompasses everything that I've enjoyed about playing games, everything that I want to see in, like, games. It's just everything come together. I don't know if we're on peaceful. We're on easy. That's fine. Whatever. So, what was I saying? Fuck.
Love letter to the internet.
Love letter to the internet sort of encompasses everything that I've, like, wanted to see come out of gaming. And it's also an idea that, like, I'm not really planning on acting on right away. I guess it's an idea that I want to push to, like, the absolute limits of ideas, and just see, like, how far I can go with that. So for a while, it's just kind of been, like, brewing in my mind, and it started with, I really like MMOs. I really like the concept of, like, fantasy worlds. Just fantasy worlds are sick, and there's no denying that. It's sick because it's so far from, like, what we currently live in, right? But I've always had, like, quite a few issues with how games, like, deal with fantasy worlds, and I don't know. I wish it was different and better. which is why I guess I started working on this idea.
Yeah.
I need to like get to the point. I need to like find an entry point to this topic. I suppose it's always been like the thought of like, how can I push current games further? And I've talked about like, you know, I got my love for like shitty games. Oh hey dude, I found it Mineshaft.
Whoa.
What the
fuck?
Cool.
Outside?
Yeah, I'll come up and show you eventually.
Cool.
I've always liked shitty games, like arguably shitty games. You know, I play Realm of the Mad God. Take a look at that game. I play Realm of the Mad God. It's not good, but I love it, bro. I love it so much because it does something fresh. It does something new. It's a bullet hell MMO, which just like those two don't cross. Like that's not something that should work, but it does. And it's a permadeath game, which again, something that like no games do. And I think permadeath is arguably a bad choice. With a game like Realm especially, it's like it's so grindy, it takes so long to get, you know, a good character if you're playing the intended way. And then, you know, there's people playing in the very like, I'm going to Zerg rush everything, you know, bigger groups means more chances of survivability. But then there's also, I don't know, it like kind of balances out itself. And like the recent changes that have happened to it have definitely started affecting it more.
I haven't seen it recently.
Some of the recent changes have been like, you know, really changing the core of the game, to where like, you know, bosses and enemies now like health scale, so you can't just entirely Zerg rush down an enemy, or like things add more.
Yeah, they've been refining it.
Yeah,
it's Realm.
But I think this idea started with like, man, how would I change Realm? And like, how would I make it into a game that goes against what it like currently is in a way that I would want to play?
Yeah.
And that developed into this idea of, I think the biggest issue is, you know, enemies get too stale in games. Like once you solve an enemy, once you solve how an AI works, it just, you've solved the game, right? And I think that's my issue with Minecraft. Like that's why Minecraft doesn't feel the same way it used to, is because, you know,
that mystery and wonder.
Yeah, that sense of like, whoa, like what's this block, or like, what do I even do? You boot into Minecraft for the first time. You're just, what do you do? And you don't know any crafting recipes. You don't know anything. And you get that. Just
I was thinking about that. How do you like? You just had to use a tutorial.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody figured out how to make like a Nether portal.
Especially before, because like before you wouldn't have any of the, you know, like you didn't have the tips book. You didn't have. It was just a game that threw you into a world generation, fucking infinite, crazy shit, and you just had to figure it out. And I think that's something that's like always appealed to me in games. It's like the just figure it out sort of thing. Because it's not like, as long as it teaches you the game somehow, it's not bad. You know, you teach a player how to move. You teach a player, when you're making a tutorial, you have to like assume this person has never played any games before.
It's hard because different games have kind of expect a different level of knowledge.
Anyways, what's the point I'm trying to get to? I want to make the first system I thought of was making sort of evolutionary monsters. So I guess you're playing more of a simulation than a game.
But you get to play it. You're not just like
but you get to play it. You're not. It's not a god game. You're like in the game. You're playing it, and essentially the way it works in concept. Obviously, none of this has like been tested out or anything. In concept, the way it works is you have enemies that all have arbitrary values attached to them. You know, let's say this enemy has an arbitrary behavior type, like it's aggressive. It's got a you know, a race like a goblin, and then, you know, various other attachments. And the more of these like tags that you make, the more it will begin to develop itself and like, you know, really come to life. And these hello. These enemies essentially aren't just like, oh hey, this is
you're right above me.
Yeah,
hey,
how do I get down there?
There's a big spiraling cave.
It's nighttime. I got some beds.
Oh, okay. I'll be right up.
Essentially, what it boils down to is these enemies aren't just like enemies for the sake of enemies. They're enemies in the sense that like they also have their own lives, I guess, where, you know, that's why it's more of a simulation you can play.
And you're friends with this one.
Yeah, it's, I suppose each one, I'm just by the shrine. I suppose each one would have, you know, their own set of like things that they got attached to them, where it's like maybe they have a reputation with other enemies in the area and stuff like that. And obviously you're playing a game, you're not doing like real time scale, so it's going to progress a lot faster than it would if you were, you know, 1-to-1 time scaling it. Let's say a day takes 24 minutes, right? You're just minute to an hour. You're going to see I think I did the math, and you're going to see like a full evolution of an enemy from a low level to a top level based off of, I think I based this off of if you give each of them a hunting cycle for, let's say they need, you know, 3 meals a day. We're going off of the human standard of 3 meals a day. So they have to at the very least get 3 successful hunts a day.
Creeper.
I don't have a sword or anything. I've just kind of been like walking around.
Thanks.
They have to at the very least get 3 successful hunts a day, and then they're also sort of optimizing their own experience bar and like how much they can level themselves up. Stuff like that. Stuff that like on a back end is happening, but you know, the player themselves won't entirely see this stuff happening. But what the player will see happening is, you know, so the game sort of developing its own stories, where it's like, oh hey, this big enemy has, you know, sort of surfaced, and like none of the current players in the area can like beat it. And maybe this enemy reigns for like an in-game month, where it had the monopoly on the experience market in-game. It was just becoming this like unbeatable force. And depending on the different arbitrary values you insert into this could change how these enemies actually gain experience, how they live, I guess. Where, you know, maybe you attach like a sort of deity status to one of them, where it's like, instead of the enemy actually going around and doing all the hunting on his own, he has, you know, his little minions going around doing hunting, and he himself just waits until they gain experience. They send one sacrificial lamb in, he just kills one really strong monster. Now he has a shit ton of experience off of no work. And maybe that's the way this AI is functioning. And the more of these arbitrary values you start to put in, the more it sort of influences these semi-realistic behaviors, right?
So you think that experience maybe would be like pooled like that?
Yeah.
Like not like really like you wouldn't get a lot of experience. I don't think.
I think there would be a just
like
sort of
really tough. I don't know.
In-game experience economy that starts circulating, and that might make you know, there's probably raising issues of like how isolating will endgame be to new players and stuff like that. But the other idea I had with this is that like I don't know if I really want it to be
But
I don't know if I really want it to be a experience that has an upper level. Like I don't know if I want it to have something you can call endgame just off of you know, playing it. I want everybody to sort of settle in their own aspect of
different
the
play
game.
styles, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be one end. Yeah.
And yeah, obviously this is just a system I started with, and that's why I'm doing this sort of log, so that I can talk about the other systems and how they work into the original system. And like maybe I'll have to expand on. I called that system the Darwin Project because, you know, we got evolution, Darwin, Charles Darwin,
Yeah.
little quirky. I called that system the Darwin Project. Also, if do you see where I went? That's where Mineshaft is.
Yeah, that way.
Just because
Cool.
it's like evolutionary, you know, all the enemies are. I believe it would use, yeah, I believe it would use reactive learning or machine learning somehow implemented into it.
Do you think that would be resource intensive? Like, do you think this is something we can do right now?
That's the thing. I don't know, which is why it's the love letter to the internet that I'm not worried about doing right now, right? Like, I want to do it at some point.
Yeah.
I want to. I suppose this isn't even like the reason why I don't know if I want to go public with this or not is because part of me doesn't want to, just because like I don't like sharing my ideas all that much, just because like I'm self-conscious, and it's also an idea that like I'm kind of like actually proud of because it's like very in-depth, and I don't know, it feels like I lose something of it being like mine if I share it super publicly.
I mean, yeah, if you put this on, people are gonna take their opinions on it.
At the same time,
if you don't want to hear them, yeah, that's fine.
At the same time, it's like I want it to. Who knows if we'll even have the technology to do this in our lifetime? And there's another thing I became sort of like infatuated with when I was younger. Is I heard that statement about like, you know, technology. It's constantly increasing, right? It's constantly developing faster and faster. Which I know there's like some issues with that statement. I don't know the full details of why that doesn't work and why it does work, but overall,
so it seems like it.
Yeah, overall, I became just very interested in that idea, and I guess that's why I sort of started developing such an idea that's like not really bound to time, where it's like I really care about it being now. Like, yeah, it's something that I just kind of want to develop to its fullest as much as I can, and
I think the technology will be there, and not.
Yeah, I do too. I believe within our lifetime it'll be there. We'll be able to do stuff like this. I think that VR is taking a very, very interesting path with like all the stuff that Galia is doing right now, or Galia, however they say it.
I don't know.
Which is it's brain-computer interfacing.
Yeah, like Valve.
Yeah, which uses like EEG sensors and like a bunch of stuff I am not qualified to talk about. It uses like EEG sensors to take in like some sort of brainwave or something, and it essentially reads in.
Yeah.
Currently, I think it's reading in emotions, and you know, Mr. Gaben himself said that we're closer to the Matrix than you think. Yeah, he said we're closer to the Matrix than people think, and like he said some shit about like how he thinks every other form of entertainment will be facing like an extinction level threat because of these current like neuroscience increases.
If you're not adapting to the users, like look at TikTok already.
Like
we're already kind of cracking the code.
That's sick,
what makes
right?
People engage.
That's sick, but at the same time, I think the most exciting part about that is the fact that like once we hit a point where we're able to create something that we're not using such archaic controls to input data, right? We're not using a keyboard and mouse that we have to manually input. That's when it like really takes off. That's when stuff starts getting insanely fast and like ideas start to really develop, because I mean, obviously you're gonna have hardware restrictions. Once we're able to once we're able to surpass those hardware restrictions, it's you know, you start developing tools that anybody can use just based off of, you know,
and the accessibility of this, you know, so many people can't use the keyboard very well, and even like older people and, you know, people who haven't ever learned to type.
I'm getting like super off topic here, but I guess it's all relevant. It just gets to this. What am I saying? It gets to this point. What was I gonna say?
I don't know. That's what you're interested.
Jesus Christ.
You're.
It gets to this point where it's like, you know, progress is happening at like an increasing rate, and you're getting all these tools that like anybody can use to make not whatever they want, but to make these like really big ideas and projects. And I think eventually that's going to turn into, you know, anybody knowledgeable, decently knowledgeable enough about, you know, what's going on and how like game development works will be able to sort of create their own games or worlds very much faster and much easier than you currently can, where you need an entire team to, you know, work out all the little intricacies. So like maybe that's what I'm holding on for. Maybe that's what this idea is like waiting for. That's what has it really just like on the brink of something cool, I think. So how do I branch into, I guess the idea that has been really, you know, working, the idea that's like really been working around in my head is you can do this cool like reactive learning, enemies develop themselves sort of thing on like, you can have it sort of develop a, you know, AI of like, how do they interact with each other, you know, how do they develop as experience, how do they invest into skill trees, and that starts to turn into you know, its own little situation of like, you know, enemies developing. But once you start adding more and more layers, that's when it starts getting more and more interesting, where like now it's not just these enemies developing based off of skill trees and what points they invest in, but once you start affecting like personalities, I guess these artificial personalities of like you know, how they like attack, what kind of various, you know, attack patterns are they able to whip out and shit like that. You start getting much more interesting interactions with enemies where like,
yeah, it can be still continually new.
Yeah, you're generating new content, and I guess that's the starting point. Okay, the big idea I had with you know, what I wanted out of it was like, yeah, you can do that. You made a cool combat game. You made a cool system. But like, that's not the entirety of what makes a game, right? Like, combat's not the only thing. And I think that's what I was stuck up on like months ago when I like didn't know how I wanted to develop this idea, is that like I was only developing this like combat portion of the idea. And when it comes down to it, like,
it's not the part I even like.
Yeah, what is everybody actually going for in like a game experience, in an entertainment experience in general, is, at least in my opinion, I think people are going for the sort of storybook experience. You know, you want a storybook beginning, storybook ending, and that's
honestly, that drama isn't appreciated a lot in games because we're just like, oh, did you win or did you lose? But it can be,
did you win, did you lose,
lose like, in a really beautiful way.
how
We
did
don't make games
not
that
how
make you
did you get
sad.
there, you know? Not how did
Yeah.
you get there, not what did it take, how much effort was expended into, you know, doing this, what went on. And one of my biggest issues with MMOs has always been, you know, you got this cool fantasy setting. You've got all this, you know, you've got these cool enemies, you've got all these cool mechanics stacked on top of each other, but when it comes down to it, I think the most immersion breaking thing for me is that you have all of these players acting as players, you know, with the intention of being players. And there's such an influx of them that, like, it feels like the world has that big disconnect of, like, well, you got these NPCs living their lives. Yeah, you don't need to make it, like, super believable that these are, like, living creatures, right? But having NPCs that do, you know, like, make it feel like a populated world being completely overridden by, hey, there are, you know, 200 adventurers standing in the middle of this town square.
Yeah.
And, you know, none of them interact with NPCs outside of, let me get this quest, let me do whatever. At the same time,
Quite unlikely, that's the thing. Yeah.
there's so many of them that are like, you know, you load into this world, right? What's the first thing you do? You accept a quest, you get drawn into the storyline, but it's like, oh, you're a new adventurer. Get yourself acquainted with gear and skills and whatever. And it feels like it takes such little time, and I get it, like, it's a game experience, you don't want it to take forever to get started out, but you also
shouldn't just be able to become a high
I don't know,
level
I
adventure.
feel like there's a yeah, I
NPCs.
feel like there's a disconnect in, like, well, look at all these people living in this world that weren't able to amount as adventurers, right? But now look at all these adventurers that just load in and, like, here they are, they're doing everything. And obviously you don't want to make the game too tedious as a start, but you
want like a
I feel
magical
like
experience.
you've always
Player.
the storybook beginning, you know, where did you start from? And I think for me that would be, and I guess to preface this, preface,
Preface is a verb.
I guess to preface this,
It's always preface, actually.
I started steering away from the MMORPG idea, which sounds weird with what I'm about to say, because, like, it's still in essence an MMORPG, but I started treating this idea more akin to a single player RPG multiplayer experience, you know, where,
You mean
like,
that the AI are like almost as real as players?
kind of, like, I don't think end goal, yes, like, end goal, that would be sick, just making an entirely, like, simulated world of, hey, these AIs are very, very similar to humans and how they work, but where it's at now and what I see as possible within our, you know, very near future, until, like, new information raises about various stuff, I'm doing it more akin to, like, I do still want it to feel like a game experience and not just like a life experience, you know?
Well, yeah. Then no one would play it. They've already got life.
All right.
Life is already installed on their machine.
Dude, must be nice, dude. So where's I going with this? I think, Nathaniel, damn it, why'd you get distracted? Fuck.
The old nihilism back at it again.
What was just said? Life,
Games,
they're people. Fuck! I just exited the thought loop, bro. Oh no.
Bye.
I guess the idea behind what I'm saying, a single player multiplayer RPG experience, okay? I want it to feel like a single player role playing game where, like, you know, everybody's the protagonist of their own story. It's not you're, you know, in this setting trying to hit endgame as fast as possible, because endgame doesn't exist. Endgame is whatever you want it to be as long as there's like evolutionary enemies, they should hopefully outrange anything that like players can actually beat. And I don't think it even has to be like a fair outrange, right? Like another one of my issues with fantasy games and like stuff like that is you're just a human, right? You're just a human. Sure, you got magical powers and you got all this, but like when it comes down to it, you are just a human. And you know that dragon did just bite your head, bro. Like, are you sure you lived through that? So I guess on a raw number level, I don't think every fight should be winnable. Where it's like, you know, I think that like I'm able to tank, you know, massive attacks from like big enemies that 100% outclass me, right? Like there needs to be a sense of fairness to it, in, you know, you're able to choose what difficulty you want to play at, but there doesn't need to be a sense of overpoweredness.
Yeah.
And this all wraps back around to how do you want to start this adventure? What really makes you, you know, start such a big, like, crazy storybook adventure that's tailored to every player's unique experiences? And the way I'd like to imagine that, I also started kind of treating this semi towards a survival game, but not really. Like the survival aspects are like, yeah, it's like they're there. I don't want to do like a distinct, you know, hunger bar that you have to constantly maintain. But like I do think there should, when you start out, you know, you spawn into this world, you're this, you know, adventurer that's hard out on money, right? You haven't, it's not like you have a fortune amassed to just buy whatever you want. You're hard out on money. You're in a big town that has an influx of adventurers already, right? And like you're just trying to make it. You're trying to make it however you can. Since there's such a big influx of adventurers and players, since it's an MMORPG but not, you know, the Adventurers Guild can't carry that many players without some sort of standards of like, yeah, they're trying to supply quests for everybody. They're trying to supply like gear for lower end adventurers that aren't, you know, quite meeting the regulations and stuff. So I guess you enter the first gameplay loop of, I need to make money to get myself access to the Adventurers Guild. Just to, like, let's say there's a monthly premium. It's a small monthly premium. Like, once you're in the Adventurers Guild, you can start completing quests and doing stuff for people that gets you a stable source of income that will net you profit every month you're in this Adventurers Guild, right? But to start out, you have to, you know, maybe you have to work little minuscule jobs where, you know, you're trying to grind out life skills that, like, you know, you got a 24-minute day. Let's say 10 minutes of those days spent in early game are being put towards, well, I'm going to go to the, like, sort of job square town area. I'm going to either work for an NPC or a player, you know, start doing all these, like, minuscule tasks, grinding out life skills. The more I grind out these life skills, the higher my, you know, the higher my skills are going to get, so the better goods I'm going to be making, so the more money I'm going to be making. And eventually, you know, you'll, within a few days, you'll make enough money to get access to the Adventurers Guild and start taking, you know, killing quests, or maybe they're gathering quests that NPCs need, whatever. And I guess that's like the storybook start, right? Where it's like, well, you start from nothing. You start from, I'm an adventurer in this adventure-ridden town where, you know, you have to earn your way into the Adventurers Guild. And it's not meant to take long. It's meant to act as like a semi-tutorial without telling you like a ton about the game. third issue, fourth issue, whatever, however many I've said with MMOs, they throw so much information at you at once, right? You'll load into an MMO and you'll get like 7-8 tutorial pop-ups on, hey, this is what this does, this is what this does. Oh, by the way, you're already getting into combat, so here's how you like fight, and here's how you all do all of this stuff. And oh, did you open the life skill menu? Well, here's how you do all that. And trust me, you have to remember this. This is baseline stuff. Like, you need to know.
Yeah, like, I want to click through because I want to, play the game, not just wait 5 hours.
And I guess that's why I brought up Minecraft and why we're doing this in Minecraft, is because, like, it's that sense of tutorial. Yeah, no tutorial, you're thrown in, you figure it out yourself. And like, once you figure it out, you're able to do cool shit. You're able to do all this like insane, impressive stuff. Just to like put that point into perspective, I'm going to the builds, right? You're able to do all this insane, like...
Fast now.
Oh yeah, sorry, I loaded into this area, so the buff's applied. You're able to do all this like crazy, impressive stuff once you know how the game works, but like, before you know how the game works, it's not like that, right? It's just you're figuring out yourself, and after hours and hours build up, you'll eventually reach this point. But
dude, this give me a headache.
you're not starting at like this this high level knowledge of like, hey, here's how you make all these like really cool builds, and
yeah, you just start with the very basics. Way up. It's quite nice.
So I guess that's the idea I have with this like fantasy game, is you want to start from just the basics. You want to start from not having a job, not having money to, get started. And it acts as a tutorial into life skills. It acts as a tutorial into just player interaction in general. And then, that starts. Now we can talk about like, where does the actual game come from? What do you do? What's the point? Like, what are you playing for? If there's no end game, like, what's your overall goal? And I guess this is something that's always bothered me about how games are made nowadays, is that like, it feels like developers are really hard out for like the profit. And I get it.
Yeah,
money makes the world go around, but like,
engagement forever. Yeah,
entertainment is one of those things that like, entertainment for the source of, or for the sake of like entertainment's sake, to the level that like we're able to do it, is unique to humans, right? Like, to the level of just, I want to make something that makes other people have fun, other people laugh, whatever, just enjoy their time being and doing, just at all, right? It's something very unique to humans and what we're able to do and make. And as soon as you bring money into that, it's like, well, how can I make a profit off of this, right? And I think especially for like game developers, that's a very dangerous mindset to get into, where it's like, yeah, you want to make money, but realistically, I want to make like a living wage and like enough to maintain the servers, and like, I'm happy. A living wage, maintain the servers, like, we're good. I'm making something I enjoy making, that I want to make. It's, you want that passion to create, and not every studio has that. Look at EA, Ubisoft, fucking microtransactions up the wazoo. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with microtransactions at a surface level, but when it's, microtransactions to progress in the game, microtransactions that make people's achievements feel insignificant. One of the biggest issues with MMOs right now, and like microtransactions in MMOs, one of the most controversial, I guess, not biggest, but most controversial, is like microtransactions on vanity items that, it used to be, you see somebody in Warcraft Classic with cool gear, like, they worked for that. They put in work, they're knowledgeable about the game. And now it's kind of like, hey, pay me $20 and you can have this really cool looking armor because Well, I know you want to look cool. Like, it's MMOs turn into fashion games at some point. I know you want to look cool, but here's like really cool
Really
armor
all
for $20, and then it gets into the issues of like, well, now if it's a PvP game, I can't tell how strong this guy is because he's wearing a vanity
yeah.
set, and
And then
there's all
why?
these
What's the point of me getting it?
there's all
It's
these
just everybody.
underlying issues, and like if somebody has a cooler vanity set that they could pay $5 for, then the set I had to work towards and like do end game bosses for, like what's
Seems
the
a little
point?
less
it, it
cool.
it just diminishes that sense of achievement. um Anyways, the ideas I want to talk about, god damn it, dude, it's so hard to like, there's so much here. There's so much here, and I think I don't vocalize my ideas enough to where I'm just kind of like, I've entered this frame of mind where I get all these ideas in my head and these cool ideas that I flesh out, and then I just like, I don't talk about them, and they just like sit
Yeah, I
there
never
and
do.
build up. And the more they build up, like the harder it gets to talk about them, because I don't know where to start. I don't know what you're supposed to say to. It's something I have like a deep interest for and a deep passion for, but
Yeah.
it's not something you can just talk to any person about and be like, yo, yeah, what if monsters got stronger by the way they lived? You know, like.
Yeah.
I
think so more than you think.
Anyways, I guess the overall idea I'm kind of throwing here is that the entire game functions off of a big sort of neural net system of quests and world generation and player interactions that eventually spawn other player interactions. Everybody is getting this unique experience because you're just making all of these unique interactions that spawn more unique interactions, and uh, based off of, since the base system that I started with is the Darwin Project system, of enemies evolving. I guess that's where I started developing the quest system idea, where quests will take a look at uh, number one, world generation, not on like a landmark level, but on like a uh, what about lore? Like, you never think about lore when world generation happens.
Yeah,
What if there's like
generate that.
cool myths in the area of rare items, and these rare items are just being generated based off of various tags they're given, right? Various arbitrary values that eventually compile into an item. I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And now that you have a sort of lore system, which obviously I don't know how you flesh that out without actually doing it, right? There's so many of these ideas are things that like you have to actually work on before you truly understand how they work. It's just a working concept,
Yeah.
And I guess you get this like lore, you get world generation in general, like what about biomes, regions? How is that going to affect the quest? How is that going to affect like gather quests? How is that going to affect what travel? And like, is there like overall trade between cities? Like, if there's big trade between cities, then maybe that's like a big payout for a job that you can take. But if you give it real-time travel, like consequences of real-time travel being it takes a long time, right? It's not just like I can walk 5 minutes and I'm in another city. It's like, let's say at a minimum it takes 1 in-game day to get between cities. Well, and that means now you're spending almost half an hour traveling between cities on foot, and that's to distribute goods by foot. And maybe that is like a super profitable thing, because in one city these goods are worth 5 gold, but in another city all of them are worth like 15, and now you're making 3 times the profit all
Yeah.
for, you know, half an hour of travel.
That's satisfying right there.
And you know, that brings into, I do think games need sort of consequences for travel, more consequences for travel than just, hey, this quest is, you know, a 2-minute walk away. Just go talk to this person, walk 2 minutes, talk to that person, and hey, you did a quest. Like, why couldn't they do that themselves? It's 2 minutes. And obviously in game time it's a bit longer, but it's still,
Yeah,
it's that
you
sort
run the
of,
risk of making it a boring game too.
yeah, you run the risk of making it a boring game, but that's not the only way of travel. Let's say you have a fast travel system put in place where, like, you can travel between different cities at different times of day, right? So, like, you have a big warp gate in the middle of a city. Let's say on a Monday at 4, that warp gate goes, you know, a couple of regions away to this city that maybe real time would take, you know, two hours of travel. The world's entirely, like, procedurally generated upon launch, so you know, cities are made where cities need to be made, biomes are made however they need to be made, but it still creates this, like, sense of real world travel, and it also then creates a sense of community in active cities where, you know, if you have players actively interacting with quests and NPCs and just
Do you have
doing the
stone, by the way?
areas, no, just doing the areas of these cities, right? You start generating this sense of community and, like, oh, hey, I've seen that player before quite a bit. Like, maybe I'll talk to them this time. Whatever. Maybe I'll invite them to a party. And we can just, you know, start talking, start gaming together, whatever. So you're not creating that sense of travel to dull out the game. You're creating that sense of travel to, I guess, invite a secondary playstyle where, well, yeah, you could travel and, you know, do this trading playstyle, but if you don't want to, you don't have to, right? Like, you could also just go out adventuring. You could also just grind out your life skill. Yeah, and other people can do travel. And once I start talking about these other systems and how, like, life skills tie into them and everything, it starts to, I guess, flesh itself out as, like, well, that travel is there to be a hindrance in different parts of skills. Like, let's say you're grinding out a blacksmithing skill, so the current region you're in is pretty highly density with, like, a medium tier ore, and, like, maybe different cities have, like, higher tier ores that you need to have to, like, really start leveling up your blacksmithing skill once you hit these soft caps on your current region. Well, you could entirely relocate your area, or you could partner with other adventurers to just ship you the goods themselves. So now you're generating a sense of community, a sense of economy, just all these little in between interactions that, like, it creates multiple play styles for however people want to play.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
that's a good idea.
What was I saying? Thought loop at exited. Fuck. Fuck.
Dude.
There's so much going on, dude. You're creating a sense of travel for the sake of different playstyles. You're creating everything for the sake of different playstyles. You just don't want it to be, you know, a one-trick game where you have to be involved in combat, or you have to be involved in heavy questing, or you have to be involved in heavy life skilling to reach, you know, end game. I don't know if I really care about metas. You know, normally metas are, like, an issue to me in games, because it's like, well,
yeah, when you just crack the code, like, or you have to do that.
Yeah, you have to do
you're
this.
a serious player, you'll be doing that.
As soon as you don't have an end game, why do you have a meta? Like, there's no reason to have a meta.
Set goal for everyone.
Uh, especially if each system sort of goes deep enough to like curate sort of experts on the systems, you know, where it's like, well, this person like really went heavy into blacksmithing, so they know all these like cool tips and tricks. That like maybe what's the word? Sorry, this is not off topic, but it's been bothering me for like 3 days. What's the word where like you got you're the mentee, you have a mentor. I think it starts with an I. They're like your intern, like they
When you're being mentored.
Yeah, like you are
Apprentice.
their apprentice. That's the word.
Yeah, it starts with an I.
It starts with an I. It's been bothering me for like 3 days, dude.
Don't ever tell anyone it does, because it probably doesn't.
I know it probably doesn't, but I knew you'd get it. I knew you'd get it. Apprentice.
You know, I apprentice.
Imagine, players are now developing these like apprenticeships because, well, this person is interested in getting into like blacksmithing, and I've been playing the game for like 3 years, and I know all the little quirks of blacksmithing, right?
Yeah.
So you get like player interaction based off of that. I believe this little loop started with questing and how quests are generated, which it's looking at lore, it's looking at world gen, and then it's looking at various other things. It might take a look at the economy. Maybe recently there's been an influx of maybe there's been an influx of guards noticing that players have like taboo items on them. Maybe there's a small chance that like a guard will come up to you, be like, hey, we're doing a search of your inventory, which moves people away from these by nature evil play styles where like maybe you're playing a thief, you steal items. So like,
yeah, there's always going to be play styles in games that are
within 3 days of stealing an item, it gets placed with like a stolen tag, and if you get interrogated, if a guard takes a look at your inventory, searches you, and you have a stolen item, maybe it lowers your reputation with the city, with that guard itself. Maybe the item gets taken away. Maybe you stole like a pretty rare item, like something that people would notice that was stolen. Now it's not just like, hey, there's a 3-day stolen tag on that. Now it's just like a permanent stolen tag on that. So now the only way you're able to deal with that without lowering your reputation is through like some sort of black market. And that can all eventually persuade quests between. The way I like to see it is that there doesn't have to be any one quest giver, and there doesn't have to be any one cookie cutter handmade or handmade quest, right? Like it doesn't have to be like this NPC will say I need, and then random item by random time. You don't need it to be cookie cutter. It probably starts out pretty cookie cutter, but once it starts playing and developing, then it starts creating these interactions between quests. And let's say, I guess the example that I thought up quite a while back was you
have a stone?
Yeah.
Nice. I was gonna have to make a wood pickaxe again.
I'm sorry.
I ran out.
Let's say you accept a quest that's like an NPC saying their insert family member here is has been critically wounded by or okay, let's say there's on the event of the Darwin Project, and like evolutionary enemies, let's say a lich type enemy spawns where it's like it's able to attach itself to people and to souls and to whatever, right? Let's say off the random chance a quest spawns like, hey, my family member was, you know, like soul siphoned or whatever you want to call this skill.
Killed.
And their soul is now been taken by this lich, and put into an item, right? He has been made into a super powerful sword, because his soul is like linked to that item. I need you to retrieve said item for me by, you know, either stealing it, killing the lich, however you want to, however you can figure out how to. You need to retrieve that item. Let's say you do, but you don't turn that item in, and you keep that item on you.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a really good sword. It's a really good sword. Maybe if you turned it in, you'd get rewarded with cash, but since you kept it, you now have this really cool, unique sword item that, you know, it does a lot of damage. It's got cool lore behind it. Someone's soul's inside of it. Like, that's fucking sick, dude. After an in-game month, maybe, the NPC, let's say each NPC has their little pathfinding options where, like, you know, they got a randomly generated, you know, sort of like Stardew,
Yeah.
set of like, yeah, their own various things that they'll go around and do. Let's say this one has free time on Thursdays, right? Maybe after a month on Thursdays, she starts going to the town square and looking for people that she's giving quests to that, you know, haven't turned in quests, because, you know, the town square is the most poppin' area. That's where you'll probably encounter most of the adventurers. And she finds you, and she's like, have you turned in the quest? Do you say no, you failed the quest, whatever. Or have you completed the quest? Let's say, off of a perception stat that NPC had that might have been increased due to various other quest players have taken from her. Maybe now she is able to tell that you're lying. Or maybe it's just a hard-written event that she knows you're lying. And that's just sort of recorded in the server database, which says, like, hey, this event did happen. Like, remember this. And then the next quests that generate from that NPC, maybe, you know, a couple weeks pass, and a quest generates, and it's either she needs to recover that item that she knows you have, or suspects you have, or she needs to kill you and get the item back herself. Now she's generating quests for adventurers like, hey, I need strong gear. Hey, I need like stat boosting items. I need all of these things. Maybe the daily structure of her schedule has changed to where the NPC itself is actively grinding out stat points to face you. And based off of other players' interactions with, you know, the NPC, and maybe somebody else was pretty closely following this NPC, and since the way I see it, pretty much every NPC would be able to generate quests. They wouldn't have to, but they'd be able to.
Yeah. Why not? You can always pay someone to do something.
Right. Let's say somebody else was pretty closely involved with this NPC. They were building up their reputation with this NPC, which maybe helped them build up their reputation with the town, which maybe that's going to allow them to start a player shop in the town and, you know, start selling items. Maybe that's their storyline, but your storyline is, I found a cool sword and I want to keep the cool sword.
Yeah.
How do you breed that player interaction of, well, let's overlap these storylines, right? Let's have this player who has been building up their reputation, who maybe they just took a liking to this NPC, to the quests it was generating. Maybe it started generating them a overall more story heavy line. maybe it's just they've been, you know, following this NPC, whatever.
Yeah.
They are now actively working against you without knowing it. And it's breeding this, again, like storybook interaction and set of stories and stuff that's it's creating this sense of real world, things are moving, things are going on.
Yeah. But your actions have actual repercussions.
Yeah. And
it doesn't happen in games.
Let's say I like the idea of permadeath, and for a while that's how I was building around the initial idea. But I eventually steered away from that, and I opted more towards a choose your own difficulty inclined style, where there'd be various things that, you know, allow you to see what people are, or how people are playing. Thank you. Various things that would allow you to see how people are playing. Like let's say the name color changes, or you get like a special title if you're playing on a hardcore character.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's like
people would totally do that. Yeah.
If you casually want to play, you can casually play. There's nothing against that. If you hardcore want to play, well, now you have, you know, something that indicates you're a hardcore player, something that indicates. And what I thought would be really cool with hardcore players is having a sort of timeline upon death that shows how you interacted with quests and what that did to your own storyline, and what other players, like when they started a quest, that would actively start working against your quest and quest lines, and like just create just a really, really cool, I guess you can make a sort of history. And this also plays into a couple other ideas I had, like a scribing skill, which builds around the idea of public libraries. That since one of the other issues with MMOs is, you know, they get data mined, they get just wiki pages made about them, ruin the magic, right? Ruin the like sense of amazing new stuff. You just build that into the game. Why not? Why not just make that a feature?
Yeah, honestly.
Where you make a scribing skill. You can have managing a library be a low-end job for new players, where all they have to do is read through, you know, documents, books other players have published, right? And just like boot out all of the troll ones, all of the fake ones, whatever, pass all of the good ones. Now you're getting a community managed library that's generating community made tutorials for your ever changing game, right? And you know, that's going to help players start, you know, skipping that new player experience and entering. Well, you realize there's a library. Maybe you go in, you look up books on maybe it's not specifically called How to Get Started, but maybe there's like a woodworking 101, and it teaches you some of the little intricacies about woodworking, what skills you should maybe invest into, what not. Maybe somebody, their entire playstyle just revolves around making a monster log, a monster encyclopedia of all the monsters they've encountered, all their behaviors, and maybe that's just like. And the thing is, you again have this sense of travel, so maybe these books only exist in, you know, certain public libraries, but you can have them shipped to other libraries in other towns, and included in their libraries. And now you're getting this like, well, maybe there's like 3 Bibles of the game, right? Maybe there's like a monster encyclopedia, which is just this big sort of, hey, here's like every monster behaviors, here how you can get better at combat. Maybe there's a big life skilling Bible that just goes over all the fundamentals of life skilling. And these are available in almost every town you can go to. Since, you know, players might be spawning at different towns depending on how you want to do spawns and all of this like actual intricate game stuff. it creates a in-game built tutorial where, like, if people want to, they can. If people don't want to, they don't have to. If people don't know about it, maybe through various, interactions of just talking to people in town, somebody's like, oh yeah, have you checked out the library? Like, if you're new, you should really go to the library, check it out, read up stuff. You can even get a job there, manage what information comes in and out of the library, and just gain a passive income to really help you get started on on going to get enough money for entering the Adventurers Guild. Not only is that going to give you passive, money about getting to the Adventurers Guild, but that's also going to, give you this, hey, you're literally reading about the fundamentals of the game before you're, like, in the depth of it and playing it.
Oh, thank you. More stone. Perfect.
And, like,
it's running out.
I don't know. That's what this whole idea is centered around, is creating these bunch of systems that work well together, which is, quest systems are linked to the lore and the world generation, and other quest players are completing, and linked to the Darwin Project system, where maybe Darwin Project and lore go hand in hand, where one enemy started evolving pretty fast, and it became noticed by the townspeople. And the townspeople are giving out quests like, hey, we noticed, like, the goblin population is really increasing, because one goblin up at the forefront of PvE combat, like, really started taking off and evolving, so it's now influencing the amount of goblins in the regions it controls, and now people are complaining about a goblin problem. And maybe you're getting kill quests to go slay goblins. And the more goblins you slay, the more you're getting familiar with combat that's evolving from these goblins, right? And the more you're getting familiar with this combat that's evolving from goblins, the more you're getting prepared for this one big fight with the final goblin that, managed to take off in its evolution. And it creates this, again, sense of, like, a living, breathing world where it's like, just all of these interactions come together and just, like, birth this big fantasy world. Like, who knows if we have the technology to do it now? Maybe if you do it right or wrong, you can. Maybe you can't. Who knows? But I don't know. I want to get the idea down before it's lost to the void of my brain. And maybe it's not possible. Maybe it's not possible in our lifetime. But I guess one of those phases. One of those phases or phrases. That, again, I got sort of, like, infatuated with, just, like, I can't let go of, is the whole parents telling you, what, if you post anything on the internet, it's there forever, right? I guess that's partially why I want to make it public, is like, well, it doesn't happen in our lifetime. Maybe somebody does find the log. Maybe the one or two people that ever look at my YouTube channel, maybe they find it. Maybe they find the log, and they watch this first episode 1, and they're like, this is a cool idea, and maybe they keep watching if I make more episodes on it, more audio logs on it, and they're, man, that's sick. And, like, he thought of this when they didn't have the technology for it, but now we do, and I could just make something like this. And I guess it's that idea of, like, I don't even have to be there. Like, as long as the idea is birthed eventually into actuality, I'm satisfied.
It's a good mindset to have. I really think it will be possible in our lifetime now. I mean, I would say maybe 5 years. I mean, just look at how far AI and stuff has come.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. The thing is, you need a big team to work on something of that scale until we get that, technology boom that makes data entry faster and tools more accessible to everybody. And, like, I've been involved in game development since, middle school, since learning to, like, bare bones program, looking at Scratch in middle school.
Oh my gosh, Scratch.
and then going to high school, learning Pascal, and then learning C++ and C sharp, and after that I was like, well, maybe programming's not what I want. So I started looking into digital graphics, and I started learning about art programs and how those tools work, and then I was like, well, maybe that's not what I want, and I started looking into 3D modeling and how 3D modeling and
They're all for
rigging works.
games.
And I was like, well, that's cool, but like I saw this thing on Steam called Substance Designer, and it's about making textures, and that seems even more sick. So I looked into texturing, and I started learning how to texture. I paid $200 for a texturing software to learn how to texture, and like I still
How'd
don't
that go?
use it that much because I don't know. It's just like motivation's a on and off thing with me. It's fun. I love it. It's a whole like node based system with node graphs. Essentially, you're starting at base colors and noise maps, and out of that you're making uh entire like height maps and 2D textures that when applied onto a higher poly plane will result in realistic looking ambient occlusion and all of that good lighting stuff to make it look like a 3D texture while it's only a 2D texture.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's really interesting. Yeah, how the 2D becomes 3D.
and
So
what's crazy is that it's all based on black and white images of random pixel generation.
really,
Yeah, it's
noise.
all noise maps are literally just black and white images of it can have any value between black and white of gray, right?
Yeah,
It's on depending on what resolution you make it at, that changes how many pixels are in it, obviously. So like a 1000 by 1000 noise map, you'll still be able to make out pixels, obviously. It's only 1000 by 1000, but it's seamless. So it loops into itself. It's randomly generated. So you'll never have two of the same. And as soon as you attach those to parameters that you can just adjust on the fly, you're able to do really cool stuff. Like, let's say you make a rust texture out of these noise maps. Since they're all random, and since you're essentially just layering noise maps on top of noise maps and telling them how to interact with each other, maybe you have a slider for the amount of rust. Maybe you have a slider for, the shininess of the metal. You have a slider for, how much the rust is generating around, raised or lowered levels of the material. And it's all based around a couple base colors and a couple noise maps.
cool.
And it's so much more optimized than making everything object based and having each of those textures actually be modeled out by like
Yeah, like Minecraft.
yeah. And granted, Minecraft's textures aren't like modeled textures, but if a tree had depth and stuff, you'd be able to tell how much more demanding that was on the system than just a 2D image placed on a square.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think about the house so far?
It's a house, dude. I ran around a lot. I'm devoting all of my brain power to like remaining
Running
on
around.
this thought loop.
I don't like the
Uh,
stone in here.
I was getting at something. Talked about quests. We talked about how I like NPC interactions to be pretty. I guess events. Events is what I would call them. Like, the guard stopping you, investigating your inventory.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even like a like forced thing. Maybe it's just like, hey, you get stopped by a guard. He, asks to see your inventory. If you say no, your reputation gets lowered, and maybe you already have a low enough reputation to where like you just have to let him, otherwise you're going to be, you know, kicked out of the city or taken to the town's jail or whatever. Uh, it's just, I don't know. There's so many ideas pile on top of each other until it breeds this actual, hey, this works
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
cool.
thing. I don't know. I don't know. It's just like vocalizing the ideas in a way that's understandable seems hard to me, you know? I don't know how well I've been doing it right now, but
Pretty understandable.
you know, you look back at the start, and what I start this with talking about, like, why I like games or something. I don't know. It's
Lots of
been,
problems in MMOs.
yeah, lots of problems in MMOs, and why I want to change them, and what spawned this idea, and
Yeah,
uh,
cool.
I guess that raises the whole, like, everything you would do in this game is made to be, uh, I guess, like, you know, breed player interaction. So one person being good at life skilling and like enjoying that. Maybe at a surface level, life skilling's like, hey, you do these like little mini games to you know, refine an ore. Maybe you are hitting WAS and D in a certain order. It's giving you a random key prompt. You're quick time eventing it.
Yeah,
And then,
something fun in the game.
you know, once you level up blacksmithing a bit, maybe it starts giving you a still quick time event, but now you're like able to click on the ore and like show where you want to try and, you know, make contact with it, and maybe that starts, you know, the refining process now has another level of depth to it. And now, you know, you're leveling up blacksmithing more, and you're like really optimizing how you are refining these ores, so you're getting much more high grade ores. Now you're bringing that to the second part of like the blacksmithing skill, which is, you know, actually smelting the ores, which has a very similar thing where it's like maybe it starts with quick time events, maybe it turns into you can adjust the, you know, heat of what you're what you're doing, and like maybe depending on what ore you have, that changes what the fuck. Maybe
It's
depending on
4.
what ore you have, that's changing, you know, what heat you need to optimize it at. And it's not telling you any of this, you know, you're reading in the
Yeah, you just
library
need to
about
know
it,
that.
you're, you know, trial and erroring it, and then you're getting into the actual, like, you know, weapon making systems. And like at a surface level, anybody who doesn't want to actually get into that doesn't have to. They can just do the quick time events, they can make poor quality ones if they want, they can just buy higher quality ones. And that's why, you know, these like new player jobs exist, as well as like maybe players that are going for more of a business owner um, sort of play style are opening up these little player shops and little jobs that people can do, so that they're making a high amount of, you know, low quality ores, and then getting a couple of rare medium quality ores and higher quality ores, so that they can ship them, you know, one city over and profit off of them, you know, maybe 2 times profit on a low quality ore. uh, and now, you know, they're actively, I guess, working towards the you know, pipeline of goods where, well, now, you know, maybe you're going to be profiting a lot more off of medium quality ores and high quality ores. So like now you're offering better wages for people who have higher levels in these skills. And maybe there's somebody who you can tell is like really getting into it, really like enjoying blacksmithing and all of these more in-depth mini games for blacksmithing, to the point where like they're constantly producing pretty high quality goods. And now you want them to like start producing weapons, actual weapons, and they start producing pretty medium quality weapons until they learn the actual weapon crafting systems. You know, now they're creating high quality weapons. Now you got your little apprentice there. You know, you're making a passive income off of your pipeline goods, which is actively helping the new player economy because they're making a profit off of, 10 minutes of work a day, which is getting them into the Adventurers Guild, which is allowing them to do quests if they want to go into combat, which is, now branching them into their stories.
Cool. Damn. Yeah, this is like, it could be very, very big.
Too many ideas. Too many ideas, and like, it's so hard to like write down some of these ideas because they're so like intertwining and like backing off of each other that like, I don't know, it's a lot, and I don't know how to
Writing's a real skill that I
visualize
don't
it.
have.
And like, obviously I've like recorded different ideas. I recorded the entire Darwin Project idea in as much depth as I could before, explaining it and stuff. I kind of wrote down some of these ideas, but this was just too much for me to write down, so I opted to just doing an audio log, and then
the old voice memo.
Yeah, the old talking about it. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll upload this as a video. Maybe I'll just let whoever wants to find this find it. Maybe my little TF2 frag montage YouTube channel will start turning more into a talk show, podcasty sort of thing.
Yeah, whatever people want to.
I mean, I had other ideas with doing gameplay videos of just like, me bringing up a topic, talking to my friends about it, getting in depth, sort of like this, but not pertaining to an idea that I've had that I don't know how to vocalize, that I don't know how to expand upon.
It's been good.
And a lot more, input by the guests on the podcast instead of just, hey, I'm gonna talk and keep talking and keep talking. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice.
It's just, it's an idea that I had, right? So it's not like I can have you talk about it other than like, hey, expand upon that,
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. I guess that's most of it. I feel like I can't continue going on with it until I do like a second episode. It has been almost an hour and a half. I think we'll get the recording to be an hour and a half, and then we'll call it there. So I guess here's the wind down phase.
You could put some highlights. You could just do like a stream highlights reel where it's
No.
the best the best words only.
The best words only.
It's like a headshot thing, but just with words.
We're entering the wind down phase, so I guess we didn't even introduce ourselves. This is my good friend Bonsai99. I don't know if you want to use real names.
I don't know. Are we at that level?
I don't know. Are we? Could we kiss? I mean, what?
Is our fame going to topple us down if we reveal our real name?
Yeah, maybe. Have you done anything like controversial? Are you a... I'm not making that joke.
I mean, that might be...
my good friend Caden. Do you have anything you'd like the good people of
admit
Argo's channel to know if this goes public?
I'd like you to know Argo's a good man, and he's never done anything wrong.
That's fact.
So if you find that he has, that's a scandal right there.
Yep. I have my own errors. We all have our own errors.
Yeah, we can pretend.
For
the sake of humility.
Other than that,
sounds good.
Yeah. What do you want to tell them? What do you want to eternalize on the internet? Anything you post never gets deleted, bro.
Yeah, it's never actually deleted, except when it is. But they got like that Supreme Court case now. This girl, Snapchat, like.
What?
Yeah, this girl's Snapchat post going to the Supreme Court.
Yikes.
Um, there's a lot of Supreme Court things about schools and freedom of speech. So, like, is a post that you make while you're on the school property, is that like something a school can enforce?
Yeah.
You know, can they punish you for saying that? Or what if it's something about school but you weren't at school, but it could disrupt school? Yeah.
I guess I'll also explain some of the possible ideas I had going into this, because this is something I was supposed to do what, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but on a different topic. This topic kind of came up because I have a lot of time to think at work. I have a lot of time to think in general. I don't talk the most. This is probably the most I've talked in ages.
A lot more thinking than talking.
And I work at a factory, so I get a lot of time to just sit there and think. And that's what this week's little thinking session was. So I guess I've been did Sweden end? No, Sweden's not over. That's just an hour and 26 minutes of Sweden. So I guess some of the ideas I had going into this was, and you know, if anybody does watch this all the way through, hey, props to you.
Wow.
Some of the ideas I had going into this was, you know, I want to do a sort of survival Minecraft playthrough where we talk about various things and just like let the conversation go wherever, but the main focus is to, you know, continuously talk, to have it be, you know, Minecraft be a
don't
background.
stop talking challenge.
Not don't stop talking, but like Minecraft be a sort of background to the video, and the actual, you know, the gameplay's not important, the conversation's what we're focusing there. And that's about various things. I think the first one was going to be about, you know, what it means to be a content creator and like my thoughts on that. I guess more to like preface how I want to do content and what I really look at in content, and not, hey, I'm trying to, you know, clickbait everybody because I need money. More like, hey, I want to make cool things that like leave a lasting impression on people. And obviously I also want to just, you know, record cool things I do in video games, because I like looking back at them, bro. I'm sick sometimes.
For
I'm
sure.
also, Abe told me I am the most inconsistent player he's played with. Which I can second that. I'm so bad sometimes, but other times I hit the nastiest stuff.
Yeah, I see that. It's good for the best shots or whatever, reels, because you get.
Well, I mean, TF2 is different. TF2 is like, I consistently play TF2 pretty well, but I'm also playing Sniper, which is like
easy.
Yeah, click on the heads. If you got aim, Sniper's pretty easy.
This is not easy for me.
Yeah, well, you also
I've been tracking.
You also don't play shooters like a ton.
No. I mean, I found I'm really good at heavy. I started playing heavy the other day.
Oh, yeah? I've never actually tried to play heavy.
My tracking is like hella good because of years of using shotgun.
Hang on. The other ideas I've had were, obviously not all of these ideas are like actually going to happen, probably. But one of the ideas I had was having, you know, each of my friends sort of write, you know, a script, something they want to talk about, I don't know, and then having the rest of them essentially send them into sensory overload while they're trying to read this script or talk about whatever they're talking about. This stemmed from the Melee moment where I was playing Melee and you guys were just like, you were in my head. I was trying my best to win a match with a terrible character in Melee.
What were we even talking about?
I don't know. I could not tell you.
Swimming is a
It was
problem.
the wake up. It was wake up, dude. You're telling me to wake up. You're getting in my head.
Oh, we were complaining about. I don't know. It's like being a boomer at some point. Complaining about how the
Was it?
kids nowadays want something.
There's that idea. There's, the normal
That's fine.
talk show idea. I do want to do a podcast where it's just, me and my friends in a car, driving around, just talking, just like just
Yeah.
on the road talking. I think it would be really cool to do a series of videos that's just, like road trip conversations. Like we take a weekend, we're like, hey, let's drive to California, and
Omaha.
we go.
Be fun.
I've had a couple other ideas outside of like streaming. Streaming's, I don't know. I want to stream, but Twitch kind of sucks, and I don't know. Streaming's a lot. I don't
Twitch
think I
sucks
can.
now?
They've always sucked, but they're getting.
No.
They've been getting kind of iffy on, NSFW content and
Oh.
just a lot of stuff that should have been solved, or at least they should have taken like a concrete stance on a while ago, and they haven't.
Ooh.
Uh,
Good. Longevity of the platform. Yeah.
Other than that, like I enjoyed streaming, but it always seemed like a lot to me, and I also, I don't really have much of a following, so I
Yeah. It's no big loss.
it's
Just got it.
yeah, it's no big loss right now if I just don't. And I think the appeal of Twitch is like, you have that instant interaction with your viewership, and when you don't have people actively watching and chatting, it's like that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do other than play games how I normally do, which is quiet, because I'm playing I'm focused on the game. And as you can probably tell from this video, I cannot like focus on two things at once very well. I've accomplished getting a bed, getting an iron pickaxe from your iron, mining probably like 20 iron.
Maybe get your own iron.
I got my iron after. I mined this hole. I went down into the mine shaft to like twice, but both times there were creepers, and I was like too focused on talking, so I couldn't fight them. So I left.
Yo,
And
leave them alone.
I've
Here, can I have your bed?
ran around a lot. I've been
That's
jumping
quick.
on these like.
Quick bed reaction there.
Oh,
Here.
I had it in my hand. I have not.
Yeah. Very much like, oh, MLG bed.
Dude, you want to see an MLG bed? I got it. Watch. Got it. Oh, I'm so good, dude.
Do beds stop fall damage because they're?
They bounce you, but they don't stop fall damage. You still, break your ankles, just not as much. I think it's a similar situation to like hay bales, which, like, again,
Oh.
part of what makes Minecraft lose its whole charm. Like, why do I know hay bales like help with fall damage? That's something you should never know in normal Minecraft playing, but like you learn so much about a game to the point where it's like, well, you just know it. You solved it, it. Like I can't play Minecraft survival normally anymore because like I've done it before like a few times.
Yeah, you can go like speed running. I feel like that makes it.
I don't
you have
even
to speed run or not.
I don't even speedrun it anymore. Not anymore. I never did. I don't even like
No,
enjoy
but like
Minecraft speedruns. Yeah, I have seen strats. I know what people do, but like I don't know. Minecraft to me is about the the storybook, little journeys you have. You
Yeah.
start from nothing. You build your house. You find a village. You build that up. Your friends build houses. You get a little community going. Maybe you're playing single player. Maybe you got you got a dog. You started an iron farm. I got a name tag. Where'd that go?
Oh, cool. It's in the chest. Yeah.
I don't know. That's it. I went
Here,
over
you have my
the
bread.
hour and a half mark, but I guess that's
I have a bunch
fine.
of cute birds outside.
I don't know
If
what
you
I'll
don't have a
do
bird
for.
feeder, I
What do you?
recommend getting one.
Hang on, look at me,
They're
look at me,
adorable.
look at me, look at me. What do I do for the second episode? Do I do a second episode? How do I
Yeah, whenever you have
do I
something
just
to
like
talk about, you want to put
expand
it.
upon this idea more?
Yeah, if you want, like, whatever you want to talk about, really.
I don't know, dude.
It doesn't have to be a continuation.
I don't know what I talk about. Like I wrote down all those ideas, but they're all just like starting points, and I don't know what they would turn into. Who knows? I guess that's it.
We'll see.
Video's over.
Bye.
Dude, do the like and subscribe and do the fucking subscribe button.